Welcome to the F1 Debate Show. We celebrate 40 years of Formula 1, the Williams F1 team and Sir Frank Williams. When you think of olden day Formula 1, you probably think of Ferrari and McLaren. Then when you think of new Formula 1, you think of Red Bull Racing and Mercedes. But there's just one team that's just at the end of everyone's tongue that you just cannot mention. They've been in Formula 1 since 1977, so this year celebrating their 40th anniversary in the sport, and that is a team of Williams F1. Now, Williams F1 are set up in Oxfordshire, in the south of England, just outside of London, but basically their roots started a lot more north than you might think. Now, as you know, the F1 Debate Show and me and Jordan are both from the northeast of England, and in that is a town called South Shields, and that is where Sir Frank Williams was born. So basically that is a stone's throw away from where we are, and that's where basically Williams F1 was formed. So I don't care what anyone says about being from Oxfordshire, you're really from South Shields, or the northeast of England really, which is obviously more important, especially to us. Anyway, so the great team first race was the 1977 Spanish Grand Prix. Now, they entered as a team sponsoring March, which were a Formula 1 team powered by Ford, but their first actual entry under the name Williams was in the 1978 Argentine Grand Prix. But everyone associates the 1977 Spanish Grand Prix as their 40th anniversary, and obviously the first entry of Williams F1. That race was ran on the 8th of May 1977, so obviously very, very close, only a few days ago, and obviously the Spanish Grand Prix, which is the next round, which is very, very important. Sir Frank Williams also bases his actual birthday, which is on the 16th of April, around this race as well. So obviously it's about a month beforehand, but he celebrates his birthday with the birthday of his team, which is actually quite nice, quite touching really. Because I remember when they had the 2012 win with Pastor Maldonado, they were saying it was probably the best birthday present Sir Frank Williams could have got. But anyway, we are going to be talking about the 40 years in Formula 1 for Williams F1, the team that is based from South Shields.
The 1980s would prove to be a stepping stone for the legacy of Williams F1. We all know them as a legendary Formula 1 team. A team that really everyone forgets who Williams actually were at one point, you know what I mean? All these fans coming through now, they always think, oh, Williams, they're just a midfield team. No, once upon a time, they were one of the best teams. They were a dominating team. They couldn't even be touched at one stage. So the 1980s was basically, like I said, a stepping stone to where Williams are today. They won 3 of their 7 Drivers' World Championships in this decade, and 4 of their 9 constructors titles in the 1980s as well. Kicking off in the 1980s, a brilliant start in the 1980s. They won their first World Championship, drivers and constructors, with Alain Jones. Brilliant year. Obviously, I think they've only been in the sport for 3 years at this stage and already won a drivers and a constructors title. That is brilliant, and actually only won their first race within 2 years of entering Formula 1. So again, marking the authority straight away, didn't they? They won the second one 2 years later with Nico Rosberg, who if I remember quite frankly, is the father of one-time world champion Nico Rosberg. So I think I've heard of him before. I think he has a good friend called Lewis Hamilton, I'm hearing. But anyways, that's for another episode. So I think, and also as well, I think Nico Rosberg only won 1 race in that season as well. So that's pretty impressive. So I think the ones are coming about in the Nico Rosberg household, or the Rosberg household, shall I say? In the actual fact, I think Rosberg has 1 child. So yeah, there we go. One's for Rosberg's all around. But anyways, and they won a third one with Nelson Piquet in 1987. But probably one of the most dramatic things that happened, and probably a one that everyone doesn't really know about, is what happened on the 8th of March, 1986. Now, you all know and you've all seen that Frank Williams is in a wheelchair. Now, you're probably thinking, why? Why is he in a wheelchair? Now, I didn't actually know this. I knew something had happened to him, but I didn't know what. Basically, he was in France, and he looked at the time and thought, uh-oh, I'm late for a plane. Actually, he wasn't late for the plane. He actually said that he got his times between France and England mixed up. So really, he was actually an hour earlier for the plane, but he thought he was late. Sorry, he was like very late for this plane. So he sped towards the airport in his car, took the corner, flipped, rolled his car on it, obviously landed upside down, broke his neck, paralysed. That is why Frank Williams is in a wheelchair. Changed his life forever. He even said if he was a Williams employee, or even if he had a normal everyday job, or even if he just started off this project that he had, like in that decade or in that year, there would be no Williams F1. You know, he was very, very lucky to be alive and to be here, and for Williams to be here today. So he said that it dramatically changed his life. Obviously, thank God that Frank is here, but obviously that is why he is in a wheelchair. So obviously, you know, from then on, a lot of things changed. Obviously changed there, winning their third World Championship in 1987. Obviously, the years after the 88, 89, obviously coming to the end of the 1980s, was actually dominated by McLaren. But actually, the 1990s would prove to be an even bigger year for Williams.
The 1990s would turn out to be Williams' best decade in Formula 1, taking 5 Constructors' World Championships and 4 Drivers' World Championships. And let's start with Nigel Mansell in 1992. Now, he drove to an amazing season with Williams to actually halt McLaren's domination in Formula 1. Now, through the late 80s and the early 90s, McLaren were basically on form, especially with their Brazilian driver, Ayrton Senna. And basically, Nigel Mansell halted them to be an amazing amazing season for Williams. He also took the 1992 Constructors' World Championship. Alain Prost returned to the team in 1993 to again drive an amazing season and lift the 1993 World Championship along with the Constructors. So it was 2 in a bounce for drivers and 2 in a bounce for Constructors World Championships. Now they headed into the 1994 season after Alain Prost left, knowing that his biggest rival Ayrton Senna was coming to the team. So the lineup then was a 3-time World Champion from Brazil, Ayrton Senna, and the very young British driver Damon Hill. Now they headed into the first few races were a bit hazy as they were basically battling the Benetton team and Michael Schumacher, who was basically dominating the races. Then they headed into one of the earlier races, which was the San Marino Grand Prix in 1994. Now a lot of you will know what happened on that weekend. It was not very good for Formula 1, and that obviously was the race day, May the 1st, was Ayrton Senna passed away. He crashed at Tamburello Corner during the San Marino Grand Prix race, chasing Michael Schumacher, which obviously was not a very good sight for Formula 1. Damon Hill finished in second place behind Michael Schumacher in that race. The Monaco Grand Prix was skipped the very next race, and the race after that, Ayrton Senna's seat was filled by the Scottish driver of David Coulthard. They basically went through that season. They were a bit up and down, but doing quite well as well, battling the Benetton driver and Michael Schumacher, who was basically really looking like he was going to take that World Championship. Was it going to go to Damon Hill, or was it going to go to Michael Schumacher? And then 1994, this isn't right, yes it is. So basically, it went all the way down to the last race, was the Australian Grand Prix, the street circuit at Adelaide. And if you all remember that race, it was a race, the moment when David Hill, Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill collided. Now Michael Schumacher was out of that race, but Damon Hill then later retired due to suspension damage, which meant that Michael Schumacher had won that year. Williams just missed out on the drivers, but they had won the Constructors, which means that 3 on the bounce for Constructors World Championships, but unfortunately not the drivers. The 1995 season was basically dominated by Benetton, but then they came back in 1996 with Damon Hill, looking very, very strong. He was doing very, very well in races, battling people like Michael Schumacher as well, real down to the wire. And the Japanese Grand Prix was where he clinched the title, and where Merriwater did is very famous, "I've got to stop because I have a lump in my throat." So that was a great race by them. They also took the 1996 Constructors World Championship, and then 1997 they won with Damon Hill. Again, a very great battle from him, but an amazing drive by the British driver. And they also took the 1997 Constructors World Championship. That was basically the glory days for Williams in the 1990s, obviously taking 5 Constructor World Championships along with that. You know, very, very strong by the English team. John, what did you think of that season, that decade for Williams?
Well, definitely one of the best in general in Formula 1, wasn't it? Excuse me, you know, coming off the back of a McLaren dominant late 80s, you think, oh, McLaren are going to walk the 90s. No. Williams took over. Williams sort of said, no, McLaren's are finished. It's our turn now. I mean, it is just great to see, obviously, the story, obviously, in the 90s, just how Williams just became from, you know, local, you know, stock car racing. Frank Williams and Patrick Head teamed up in 1977, and literally in the space of 20 years, they've become multiple, you know, 7 drivers' titles, 9 constructors' titles. That is impressive. You know, probably you won't get that today in modern day Formula 1. You know, people have raced in their own cars, they formed their own teams, but I don't think anyone will come anywhere near to the success that Williams had in the 80s and 90s. I mean, had some amazing drivers in themselves, like you said, Alain Prost, Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve. All we were saying that how, you know, the Villeneuve name should have been on that trophy when we were saying about drivers who actually, you know, the best drivers who didn't win a title. And obviously, to see Jacques Villeneuve, well, not only Jacques Villeneuve, but the Villeneuve name on that trophy was an absolutely amazing achievement as well. And also to do it in the Williams as well, which is just absolutely incredible in my opinion. So the 1990s was absolutely dominant for Williams, a brilliant age for them. However, the next decade, the 2000s, and obviously recent the 2010s, turned out not to be as successful. You know, they started obviously 2000, you know, bad unreliability. They partnered with BMW, obviously leaving the Honda Renault era behind them. Obviously coming in with BMW, it just didn't take off. And seriously, from 2000 till 2010, I think they only won like a handful of races. Obviously, for a team like Williams, I mean, that's just, it is sad to see. It was almost like seeing what McLaren are today. You know what I mean? Like literally their fall. That's what Williams were doing back in them days. However, they did bring up some very amazing, some talented drivers that we know and love today, such as Mark Webber, Jenson Button, Juan Pablo Montoya, Nico Hulkenberg, for example, and a driver called Nico Rosberg. I think we've already mentioned him in the episode, and I've already heard of him as well. I don't know. Two Rosbergs for Williams. Rosberg and two. I thought Rosberg liked the ones. I thought Rosberg liked the ones. So I would say the decade from 2000 till 2009 wasn't really as good. However, the following decade in the 2010s, obviously modern day Formula One, turned out to be a bit better. Nico Hulkenberg, Mr. Nearly Man, somehow managed to beat the Nearly and get pole position at the 2010 Brazilian Grand Prix. Stunned everybody, and obviously everyone thought, Williams good in 2011. Here we come. No, the season was really bad. And to make 2011 even worse, which driver did they employ and introduce into the world of Formula One? A certain Pastor Cristiano, as he is called these days. And also as well, guys, recently, is that his cousin, I don't know his name, but someone Maldonado, he started crashing in Formula 3. So, I don't know Maldonado's on the way, but anyways, that is for another story. So yeah, we've seen the rise of Valtteri Bottas. I'm jumping ahead of myself there, sorry. Pastor Maldonado in 2011. Rubens Barrichello, that was when the last time we seen the Brazilian on the grid in 2011. I mean, it was a poor season. I think they scored 5 points all season in 2011. I mean, that if Williams weren't on a low from the 90s, then that just sums up everything. They were like, are Williams ever going to return to where they once were? Jump to 2012, you know, they had an okay car. Let's face it, it was so unreliable. Obviously, return to Renault power at this point. Had Cosworth in 2010 and then changed to Renault in 2011. In 2012, however, they did return to winning ways with Pastor Maldonado at the 2012 Brazilian at the Spanish Grand Prix. Sorry, not the Brazilian Grand Prix. I'm getting my Grand Prix mixed up here. So yes, obviously we all thought, okay, return to winning ways here. No, again, that wasn't the case. Move on to 2013. Again, it was a very poor season. However, we did see another future F1 great in the Finnish driver of Valtteri Bottas, who recently won his first Grand Prix at the Russian Grand Prix with his new team Mercedes. And obviously, in 2013 wasn't really that good. 2014 saw the introduction of I would say a legend sponsor of Formula One. Martini made themselves a return to Formula One with Williams, making a brilliant livery, signing the veteran Felipe Massa, and bringing along his so-called, you know, brother, let's say, in Rob Spenley, who is still there today. And obviously, recently Williams have sort of been up there. They have been, you know, nearly back to where they were. A couple of podiums and a pole position. Felipe Massa in Austria 2014, very, very surprising. Didn't win the race, and then obviously that amazing start in Silverstone 2015. 2016 was a bit of a poor season, and 2017 this season isn't really going to plan. So obviously Williams, obviously their glory days are long. Behind them, had some very talented drivers, as we've mentioned. They've even brought some talented drivers through the grid, as like I said before, in Mark Webber, Juan Pablo Montoya, Jenson Button, who's returned to Formula One recently, only for one Grand Prix though, guys, and obviously produced their latest driver in Valtteri Bottas as well. And also, guys, if you didn't know, Toto Wolff, obviously head guy at Mercedes now, came from Williams, and that is where he met his wife Susie Wolff, who was also a test driver at Williams. So there's some more facts for you. So we've been throwing a load of facts at you guys recently, haven't we, on previous episodes? So I hope you enjoy these facts, because exactly loads of stat attacks coming your way, and here's some more stat attacks coming your way as well. So Williams, since their inaugural season in 1977, have 16 different drivers that have won for Williams, like race winners. So you've got Nigel Mansell, who is their more successful driver in terms of race wins. He's won 31 Grand Prix out of his career. He's won 28 of them for Williams. That's a lot. Damon Hill is probably, I would say, realistically the more successful, closer to race wins for Williams than races overall. 21 of his 22 career wins came with Williams, obviously including one World Championship. Obviously Nigel Mansell as well won one World Championship. Alain Prost, 51 wins, is now third in the all-time wins list, recently overtaken by Lewis Hamilton, who is now on 54, I believe. Obviously seven of them wins, 7 of his 51 wins came with Williams, and also as well another title in 1993. However, now obviously these two drivers won all their races with Williams. They won 6 races with Ralf Schumacher, the brother of Michael Schumacher. He won 6 races, won all of his races with Williams, and Keke Rosberg won all of his races with Williams as well in 5. Now you could argue, yes, they are like the best. You know, obviously 100% of their records came with Williams. However, they didn't really make an impact, did they? I mean, one of them had a Schumacher name, the other one won one World Championship. I mean, come on, guys, that's not really good. That good, is it? But also, they're the ones I picked out. There also is some other ones. Obviously, as I said before, Pastor Maldonado won one, and also as well, if you remember, Clay Regazzoni, the guy who stood in for Niki Lauda when he had his big crash in 1976, actually won. I think he won 1 or 2 Grand Prix with Williams, and even won their first Grand Prix. Williams won their first Grand Prix back in Britain in 1979. So in terms of engines, which is obviously very, very important, Williams have won 64 races with Renault engines, 23 with Honda. 23 wins with Honda, Lyle, 17 with Ford, and 10 with BMW. So obviously there's a few stats thrown at you about the history of Williams, the drivers, the wins, with, you know, just some facts just in case, like, obviously you didn't know, and obviously hopefully add to them in the future. So Lyle, what is your overall thought on Williams as a team itself from start to modern day?
Well, I mean, Williams, you know, have always been the team that have always been fighting. I mean, obviously, the 80s and the 90s were great for them. Yes, the mid-2000s wasn't fantastic for them. Obviously, they brought some great drivers. Obviously, Jenson Button as well, battling away, especially in the years of getting back to his standards. 2010 with Nico Hulkenberg was a really great start. I mean, the win, the pole position by him in the Brazilian Grand Prix 2010. Yes, the race win didn't go his way, but that was really like a massive turning point for Williams, thinking, yeah, they are really back. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic thing to see. Yeah. But Williams have a habit of doing that. You know, they have got pole positions before when they haven't gone on to win the race. I always remember that a big one was Austria 2014, where Williams locked out the first and second positions. They locked out the first row and got first and second on the grid, obviously with Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas. It was a great result by Felipe Massa in Austria, and then obviously couldn't get the win which they were gunning for. So they've done that a good few times as well. But obviously Nico Hulkenberg in 2010 was massive for the team. It was a stand to think that Williams were back. Obviously, Juan Pablo Montoya won his last race, Williams' last win, in 2004, and there was an 8-year gap, obviously, until Pastor won in 2012. I've said that stat, you know, a lot of times in the F1 debate and things like that, and obviously on the channel as well, because obviously, you know, you can kind of, you know, use it against like McLaren. You know, you can use it against McLaren, John. Really, so obviously you can say to them that, you know, McLaren obviously won last time in Brazil 2012. They have until 2020 to win, because I remember, well, I don't remember, but I've like, you know, seen on telly and stuff that the times between 2004 and 2012 for Williams fans, obviously, especially with 2011, as John has said, with Pastor Crastinato, you know, it was gloomy. It was really bad. And obviously, apart from what I've just said about obviously Nico Hulkenberg in 2010, you know, Williams fans were really thinking, you know, is this, like, when's it going to get better? When are we going to start getting back to the days when we were winning? Obviously, we were dominating through like the mid 90s and the late 90s and things like that. Obviously, some amazing results and stuff like that. And then obviously 8 years came by, and then they won in 2012, which was fantastic. I mean, it really was, you know, a massive shock to see. Obviously, round 5 different winners. And obviously, that was the season that got 7 different winners in 7 different races, including the first Venezuelan driver to win. And obviously, Williams, obviously his most recent win in Formula 1. They've had some great battles through then. Obviously, Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. That's always been a great circuit for them. Obviously, Valtteri Bottas has really done well before, obviously getting fastest laps and things like that, doing really well in the race. And obviously all the way up to, I know it was with Mercedes, but obviously, I mean, Williams can always look up the field and say that, you know, we created Valtteri Bottas, obviously, that amazing performance that he's doing at Mercedes. Yes, You know, he got pole position in Bahrain, and he won the race in Sochi. You know, we created that, we gave that amazing drive for him. They've got some great people behind them now. Obviously, they've got Paddy Lowe from Mercedes. Probably one of their most smartest investments this year. You know, getting him was really,
and
really
special. And also as well, Paddy Lowe even started with Williams. He started his career with Williams.
Yes, so we went back there. So obviously that was very important from that, and obviously we covered that in F1 Debate episode 38, our first episode back as well. Obviously very, very special as well, as you said, as John just said there. Toto Wolff starting off at Williams. You know, they have a really great backing. It's really great to see where they're going, and obviously one of the strongest the strongest backings for the team as well. They've got Claire Williams, you know, really stepping up. Born in Windsor, educated at Newcastle University, obviously again not very far from us, so we're kind of getting into the trend of, you know, the F1 Debate show, and Williams being a northeastern thing, really, obviously with South Shields and Newcastle, but it really is, really. Obviously I remember that was a question also on Fry the Grid. That was actually, not Fry the Griller Grid, on the real Griller Grid last year. That was actually the first. I'll actually hold my hand up and say that was the first time I knew that Claire Williams was from Newcastle University, that went to Newcastle, and I was listening to it, and I thought, Newcastle, stop. Is Valtteri just really said that? And he did. Anyway, so Newcastle University was where Claire Williams, she is a deputy team principal at the moment. Obviously OBE, which obviously is a massive, a massive statement in the UK as well, and in the Commonwealth. Really great achievement to get that. Just behind Sir Frank Williams, obviously running the team alongside him. So really, it's a father-daughter partnership as well. Really, really great from them. And that also just leads me into the second question that John asked me, which is, what do I think for the future of Williams? Now, obviously, really strong from them. Last year wasn't. I mean, obviously, Force India were a very strong team, obviously just beating them and the constructors. But I always remember 2014, again, like the pole position, what a great year that was. Third place was absolutely fantastic. They managed to match that also in 2015, but 2014 just, managed to put the cherry on the cake. Even they made that 2014 third place even sweeter. This was really the return of Williams, and especially in that V6 turbo days, because actually when they lined up, when you looked at them from an outsider's point of view, Williams were actually one of the only teams to get that V6 and engine correct, and they even got the fastest lap ever in Brazil, and they really topped a lot of the charts, making that kind of a dominant era. And that was, one of their best seasons that they need to look back on and say that, in terms of when the regulations changed in Formula 1, we really nailed that change. So when it comes again, when they change the regulations next time, which obviously we've been seeing in the episodes, will be in 2021, again, they should be looking and thinking, we can get that nailed down. Just look at what we did in 2014 when we went back to the V6 turbos. Really, really great from them. In terms of their financial backing as well, they're getting loads of financial backing. Obviously, they get loads from Lance Stroll, and there's Canadian finances as well. Getting loads from Martini as well. Going forward as well, Williams with Mercedes power, looking a very strong team. Felipe Massa is very unsure. I mean, obviously, a driver who wanted to retire last year, he's come back doing the team a favour. We're not sure where he's going. Lance Stroll, we're very sceptical on his career path. What is he going to do? But obviously that'll be for a later episode as well. Hopefully when the season progresses, we'll get more of an idea whether is Lance going to stay or is Lance going to take a stroll out of Williams.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
For what it's worth, I thought it was humorous.
But, I'm definitely confident, John, about the future of Williams. I mean, what a very strong team they are, especially Spain as well. This is where, obviously, kind of like the flowers bloom around Williams. This is where, all the talk builds up about them. Obviously, that really great team as well that started in South Shields. I think that they could have a very, very strong season as well. Going forward with Mercedes power, a really great batting as well. With those two Williams pairing, I mean, obviously very strong from them. Obviously, Patrick Head as well, still sticking his nose in through that. With Rob Smedley, Paddy Lowe, Mott O'Driscoll, and obviously Sir Frank Williams as well. Amazing package as well. Amazing two drivers as well. And Lance Stroll, Felipe Massa. Call them what you want, but they are still making the results. And, I'm very, very happy on what they will get. But it is they've got to be pulling out results straight away to show that they can go back to what they achieved in the 90s. But Williams as a whole, I mean, take out the 2000s, they've had such a great career and a great start to since the late 70s. I mean, obviously, well done to Frank Williams, obviously, for bringing this team so far down. I mean, 40 years down the line, and you've achieved so much in that time. So obviously, Williams, just well done and keep rolling. Right, anyway guys, so we're just going to end that episode now. Thank you very much for watching this special video, this special episode that we've decided to obviously, you know, do in the direction of Williams.
Yeah.
Williams' 40th anniversary in Formula 1, obviously very special, and basically Williams, here is to the next 40 years. We obviously wish you all the best as well going forward. And yeah, what an amazing story, what an amazing legacy, and we hope there is still more to come from the South Shields based team. So anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the F1 Debate Show. Let's go up to 200 subs, which we're not at the moment. We're just on the cusp. Thank you for 30,000 views on YouTube as well. Let's get to the next 40 and onwards from that. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next time guys.
See you later.